Hello to all Ghana-loving Ghanaians. Welcome to NUSEG. And in the interest of Ghana must work, Ghana can work. We all want Ghana to work. Please subscribe to the channel and forward this video to other Ghana-loving Ghanaians. And while we're here today, Ghana Cedi depreciation and inflation plus propagandist Professor Hanke. Professor Hanke is back again, and as it is in our previous video that we have stated, that it seems this man is a propagandist working solely to the disadvantage of third world countries, and in this case most especially Ghana. His interest is so deep into Ghana, and we are yet to understand why. But then we are alleging that this is much more of an interference in our democracy and economic affairs because of the way Professor Hanke is doing it. Let's assume that his assertions or his projections, inflation projections, are something we should take seriously or write home about. This is not how to advise the government. There are channels by which you advise the government. There are processes in getting involved if you want to help. But to be on the internet, to be on Twitter and be writing such things and having a go at our leaders, our president, and some high-ranking officials of our political leadership, that is an attempted interference in our democracy. And we say, Professor Hanke, back off. Leave Ghana alone. It's not your job. If Ghana has problem, US do have a problem as well. Use your applied economics abilities to help US. And the interesting thing is this. Our media only carries what he says and projects it and gives no counter view. In effect, they are accepting the fact that Professor Hankes' insulting and unacceptable statements about political leadership is okay. All the media houses in Ghana, once Professor Hanke goes on Twitter and writes those his things, off goes our media. Professor Hanke, professor of applied economics of Johns Hopkins University, blah, 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 blah. Why? They don't see anything wrong with the fact that this man is trying to destroy our democracy. The man is interfering in our democracy. Why do we say that? You see, he is trying to turn us against our leaders. I'm not saying our leaders don't have issues. I'm not saying our leaders don't have job to do. But it is not a job of Professor Hanke to tell us how our president is failing, how our vice president is failing, and some other leaders that he has had a go at. This is an attempt to print an image in our mind. And when the country turns against their leadership, that is a revolution. And if our media cannot see what Professor Hanke is doing, then you are a failure to our country. You, the media in Ghana. Because your job is to look between the matters and report accordingly and counter-report as well. And where are all our economists? Why are they quiet watching this man go on a rampage? Yes, our president may not be doing what we want him to do, or our vice president and what have you. All these things that Professor Hanke is saying on the internet, how is that changing anything rather than making it even deeper? Because, as in our previous videos, there's some speculative aspect that actually affects your currency. And I think Professor Hanke knows that. And he's pushing that string to drive our currency down more. Remember, as we said previously, Ghana is trying to strike a deal with IMF, which shouldn't be anyway. In one of these days, we're going to make a video about what is it with us that we should go borrowing American dollar when we have a central bank. America's central bank doesn't go to Britain to borrow pounds. They do what they think is fit. And we have something we want to say on that. What did he come to say again? This is carried by Ghana. Of course, all of them are carrying it. All the news media houses in Ghana are carrying it. So anyway, so this is what he has to say. And we'll go through quite a few of them and we'll respond accordingly because it is not right. It's unacceptable. A professor of applied economics knows that throwing such things on the internet is not the way to resolve or to help a government. And calling our leaders out by name and saying some vicious things about them is an attempt to turn Ghanaians against their leadership. And I say that is an interference in our democracy, an attempt to destroy our democracy. That's unacceptable. On the 7th of October, this is what he said. And his tweet. Former Deputy Communication Minister Kwechi Ofosu calls. He is referring to what the former Communications Minister Kwechi Ofosu, what he said about Bawumia. So he said, former Deputy Communications Minister Kwechi Ofosu calls Ghana's Vice President Bawumia an unmitigated disaster. Did you hear that? Unmitigated disaster. I couldn't agree more. That's Professor Hankes. Today, I measure Ghana's inflation at punishing 87%. Do you see the choice of words? You go and read all his Twitter handles as far as Ghana's inflation in Ghana Cedi is concerned and see that this man is not on an agenda and tell me that this man is not driving a propaganda. A punishing 87%. That's more than 2.5 times the official rate. Professor Steve Han tweeted, Professor Han, leave Ghana alone. And stop this your behavior. This your democracy destroying behavior. Stop. I'm not sure what is in it for you to try to destabilize Ghana, because your tweets are an attempt to destabilize Ghana. You want Ghanaians, because it's already difficult for Ghanaians. It's already challenging. Something I would attribute to the economy and the economics of the West, especially America. So when you begin to play these words into the mind of Ghanaians and actually pointing them to the leadership as being the problem, that is deliberate and it's unacceptable. And it's painful that even our media houses and our economists are sitting down there and watching this man attempt to destroy our democracy. In our previous video where we titled it The Economic War, and again, some few things were said about Professor Hankes. We took time to read some of the comments, and I'm going to respond to some of the comments because they are very important. The attempt of NASIG is to create this healthy atmosphere where we engage intellectually, strategically, by exchanging of ideas. And there are some of the few things that some have said, apart from some who have used insulting words, which is okay. If that's how they want to present their respond to what we put out there, what can we do? Let's look at some of the comments before I go back to some of the endless tweets Professor Hankes has tweeted about our leadership, which I don't accept. It is not his job to tell us how bad our leaders are doing. Ghanaians are intelligent enough to know so. These are some of the comments as per our last video about some of the behavior of Professor Hankes since the depreciation and the inflation issue that is all around the world anyway. But he seems to have picked up on Ghana and has been riding on with him for a while now. But these are some of the comments, and I will read them out. This one is from one Kumo G. He said, where is Nasij? Where is our table? We have seen his. He's referring to the fact that they have seen Professor Hankes' table. Yes, but did you care to know where the information he put into the table? Did you care to know how he has manipulated the table to have those figures? Of course, statistics, you can manipulate numbers. So the fact that Professor of Applied Economics from University of Johns Hopkins, America, who I don't think he really has Ghana at heart or has any specific desire to see Ghana succeed, says he's 87, so he's 87. No, it's about time that we rise up. This is what I'm saying. Where is our economists? Even if we have to use the prevailing informations in Ghana to do what needs done, they should be doing it. And our statistical board have been coming out with their figures. Let's accept it. Let's believe them. Or because he's a lighter skin, he lives in America. So yes, we may not have presentable, but we are challenging the fact that he should not be doing that. We don't know what is driving, what is the motive behind those his tables, and what are the manipulations he has inputted into those to come out at those his 87, 70 something figures that he's giving us. It's not his job. We have not assigned him anything. So you went on to say, I am speculating, but Hanke can't. Listen, gentlemen, you are a Ghanaian. You are happy for John, what do you call him? Steve Hanke in America to speculate about your country, to drive down its currency and increase its inflation to the disadvantage of Ghanaians. You don't see anything wrong with that? How many Ghanaian economics or officials do you see coming out with figures trying to say that America's 9, 8, 20, 10% inflation that they said it is, even though theirs is also going up, it's not. You don't see anything wrong with it. Listen, we got to renew our mindset. We have to become country people who will defend ourselves at any cost. I am not saying that Ghana doesn't have an issue as far as economic is concerned, but what Professor Hankes is doing is unacceptable. So he went on to say, Massa, I used to sell a pack of glucose strip, Viva Check, at 78 Ghana Cedi in January. 8 to 9 months down the line, I am selling it at 130 Ghana Cedi. Why that? That's the question we have to ask. How is the inflation reflecting in that your pricing? And this, I have this discussion with one of my friends to say, look, our pricing control is also out of alignment in Ghana. An individual can just get up and say, because they say inflation is 10%, I'm adding 10 Ghana Cedi to my product. How did you arrive at the 10 Ghana Cedi? I'm not saying there's no inflation issues. I'm not saying is it everything that we import from America? Our farm produce, yes, somebody's going to argue from the point that we have fuels that is going up. But when I go to buy my goods for production, I don't just go and buy one bowl of maize to prepare kenke. I buy sacks. So I'll have to spread that cost. So you can't tell me that kenke that used to be 10 Ghana Cedi, I'm not saying it is, kenke that used to be 10 Ghana Cedi is now 20 because inflation is 10%. Perhaps by the time you've gone, yes, there's an increase in the cost of bringing your resources and production. So at the time you have spread everything out to break even and make profit, might mean that your kenke is now 12 Ghana Cedi or 13 Ghana Cedi. So, sir, how did you arrive at your 130 Ghana Cedi per that product you're talking about? So our pricing is also out of control due to the fact that we are not enforcing our regulations. I'll leave yours there. Cool Moji. That's all I have to say to you. We have to love our country, good or bad, and do something about it. I'm not saying that the inflation should be left unchecked. I'm only saying Professor Hankes, it's not his job. What he's doing, he's trying to destabilize Ghana, if you can't see it. I can. The next person is Kamwa Joe. He said, data speak facts and not about what we think or believe. I'll be glad if you back this type of analysis with data and not only talks and reading. The data are on the trading economics. That's exactly what Professor Hankes is referring to as the official figures. Why is it that we are refusing to accept the official figures, but we are accepting Professor Hankes' projections, his wild projections? Exactly what I'm saying, that's exactly what he wants to cause. For us to be so dissatisfied with our economy, to be so dissatisfied with our leaders, and turn on them. And you said, Kamwa Joe, you said, thanks, my suggestion. Thank you too for your input. Very welcome, anytime. Thank you. Then there's next person is Kofi Digbe. D-E-E-G-B-E. Let's stop using the term black market. Thank you, I agree. And as of today, I saw on the news that the people who operate in that market were being arrested as being the culprit for the devaluation of Ghana currency. How many are those people? Listen, we are just refusing to acknowledge and address the fundamental issues that we have. It is not only the exchange, I call it let's just agree with what Kofi Digbe is saying. He said we should call it alternate market. That's correct. All over the world, there are what we call alternate markets, things that are not in the official line of things, but is recognized, it is there and what it has. And then it then becomes a market that can actually be regulated. So I agree. Kofi Digbe, it's a good suggestion. We don't have to be labeling everything that has to do with us or has started with us as being black or unacceptable. If it is too late for these alternate markets to exist. So what we have to do as a country, as an economy, is to recognize it and actually regulate it. So we have the bank and then we have the alternate market. So we have choices. We have options. Good suggestion. Excellent input. Going forward, we don't have black market anymore. It is alternate foreign currency market. Alternate forex market. Meaning it's not from the banks. You walk to the kiosk, you walk to the corner shop, and they are there. And if the government, our government, will choose to regulate it, it can even become a means by generating revenue for the country. Because they have come to stay. Beautiful piece. Kofi Digbe. So one more comment from our previous video, which when you go down the video, you will see there, very beautiful one. And again, we called it Ghana Cedi Depreciation, Inflation, and Professor Hankes. Economic war. Now, and some are asking, where is our table? No, we're not here to show tables. We are here to call him out on the fact that what he's doing is speculative. And is an attempt, especially when he begins to have a go at our leaders, calling them by names and labeling them with words. Agreeing with Professor Hankes will not change Ghana Cedi depreciation. Sitting down as a country, looking at what needs done, and turning this around on his head is what is required. But it seems like people are beginning to lean towards what Professor Hankes is doing and exactly what he wants to achieve. We should turn against our leaders. That is a democracy-destroying behavior. He is interfering in our democracy. If you can't see it, I can. So if you're asking me, where is my table? No. The tables are there. The official publications of inflation is there. But you're all leaning towards his that is saying that Ghana's inflation is out of alignment. It is his inflation table that is out of alignment. It is his inflation table that he has manipulated so hugely that is out of alignment. And this is what this gentleman have to say. His name is Ketibua Blay. You are foolishly being emotional rather than being intellectual. That's he referring to us at NSG. Ketibua Blay, you don't have to insult to air your views. And I'm not sure what is foolish about being passionate, pointing out a foreigner wanting to destroy my country. If you cannot be that passionate about a country, then you don't love Ghana after all. This slave mentality that when a white man speaks is final, we have to change. And that's the only reason you will refer to me as being a fool, because a white man has spoken, he's the super guy. Everybody accept it. Our media as well. They don't give counter views on what he's saying. They just reported it. They just report it verbatim and leave it there. It's unacceptable. But anyway, apart from the insult, this is what we have to say. It isn't a fight between Ghana and the corrupt US. Oh, you are telling me US is corrupt, yet you are calling me being foolish. And don't I say, and don't unintelligently use the war in Ukraine as an excuse for Akoufo-Addo's failure. See, look, gentlemen, it is not about, I am not giving excuse for Akoufo-Addo. Akoufo-Addo is our president. I am saying Professor Hankes has no right to measure Akoufo-Addo for us. We can. So if you think that Akoufo-Addo is failing and it is not Ukraine war, you are entitled to that. That's okay. I want you guys to see in the light that it's about time we begin to defend our own country. We project our country. One of the things that made America great is they boast of ourselves, even they are losing. But we turn against each other so quickly. Just these few interesting inputs from Professor Hankes. Look at how we are turning against our leadership. Exactly what he wants to achieve. Kotibua Blay, you have a point. You don't have to insult. Air it. This is the reason for NSG. It's a patriotic channel. Come and give your patriotic views. Collectively, let's build Ghana. Ghana is not exclusively Nana Akufo-Addo's own. It won't take him alone for a difference to be made. But thank you for your input. If that's how you feel that Nana Akufo-Addo's alleged failure is not Ukraine, that's fine. You're entitled to it. You're a Ghanaian. But the fact remains, all these factors around the world is influencing what is going on. And we as a country have to do something to preserve and protect and progress our country. And you went on to say, Ghana is so endowed not to be so badly impacted. You have a point. And not only just a point, it's a fact. It's a fact. Thank you for input. Much appreciated. But let's go back to Professor Hankes. Because up until the one he posted recently, which I read at the beginning of this conversation, he has done some already. Ghana Web. Ghana's economy has gone down the tubes under Akoufo-Addo's reign. That's Professor Hankes. And this is the tweet. And the tweet was on the 27th of February, 2022. He said, inflation at 83% against official figure of 33.9. He ranked Ghana 7th on the inflation table, his inflation table, personal table, which I believe is only purposed to carry out propaganda against third world country, especially in this case. He has something so interested in Ghana, and I think he wants to see Ghana fail. Actually, he's been advocating for currency board, just so Ghana will be chained to the US dollar. As said earlier on, we will be making a video on American central bank does what they do to help the economy. What is our central bank doing? What is the Bank of Ghana doing? Why should we always be buying US dollar in the name of loan from IMF? Can't we become tough enough to do what is good for us? And this is the tweet. Ghana's 7th place in this week's inflation table. On September 22nd, I measured Ghana's inflation at a stunning 83%, over 2 times the official inflation rate, 34%. During President Akoufo-Addo's reign, Ghana's economy has gone down the tubes. You see, he is calling our leader out. He is calling our president out. That's not his job. He is trying to get us to turn on our leaders. And if that happens, don't forget up north what happened when the unseen faces have managed to turn that country against their leader. Professor Hankes' behavior is a democracy-destroying behavior, especially as an economist, labeling the state of the economy as a sole responsibility of the president when he knows it is not. That propaganda has to stop. The Fourth Republic has come to stay. And that's what I'm saying. And if you guys cannot see it, then you need to sit back again and think twice. Then this one, Ernest Owusu Bempa, Steve Hankes' understanding of Ghana's economic situation not backed by data. I agree. It's about time somebody begin to call this man out. Thank you very much, Ernest Owusu Bempa. We can't sit down because he's a white man, he's an applied economist sitting in America and just tells us what is going on in Ghana. How does he know these things? Because he picks a phone and calls 1 or 2 people and they tell him what the exchange rate is in what he called the black market, which we said that should stop. It is not a black market anymore. It is an alternate currency market. That's what it is. This is what he had to say. He said, there are several of these critiques from our compatriots here in Ghana. But when a foreigner who claims to know it all decides to inflict on us his all-knowing misdiagnosis of our situation, it calls for public concern. I agree, which is exactly what I kept saying. This is the 3rd video we are doing because of Professor Hankes. This man is on a course to destabilize Ghana. And Ernest Owusu Bempa, thank you for calling him out. Because that's what he's doing. He's sitting in America, but present himself to say he knows so much, calling out Nana Akoufo-Addo, calling out our vice president, and now the whole country is on their back, saying that they are the reason. Yes, they are our leaders. But we have to look at the fundamental distortion. Yes, at least they can make a difference. But Professor Hankes has no right. He has no right to be calling them out. He should call out Biden. He should call out Powell of America. America has issues too. Lots of it. Then here he goes again, Professor Hankes. See, they want, you see, the interesting thing is how our media reports it. They add so much value to this man. Professor of Applied Economics in Johns Hopkins University, Steve Hankes, has identified who is he to identify vice president? Who gave him the audacity? Who gave him that place to identify which of our leaders is or is not doing what? Professor Hankes, that's not your job. The last time I checked, we have not assigned you any such jobs. Stop interfering in our democracy and economy. And our media, yes, Professor of Applied Economics at Johns Hopkins University. So they are adding value so Ghanaians can accept his projections. His speculative projections has identified Vice President Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia as the cause of the country's problem. How did Professor Hankes know this? Professor Hankes, how do you know Bawumia is the sole reason for Ghana's economy? I'm sorry, but you should be ashamed of yourself. You know what you're doing and you should stop. And this was Ghana Web writing this. According to him, even though the vice president wrote on the back of coming to solve the problem of the country, he is rather doing the opposite by creating problems. Professor Hankes is trying to tell us that Vice President Bawumia deceived us by saying the economy is the problem he's coming to solve it. Now he's not solving. What do you think he's doing? He's trying to get Ghanaians to turn on our vice president. And you don't think that is an attempt to destabilize a country? And our media will just write it verbatim and leave it and give no counter views at all. Once again, I will say to this gentleman, Ernest Owusu Bempah, thank you for calling out this vicious man who is on one course to destabilize Ghana. Tell me those statements about Bawumia is a solution providing statements. It is not an attempt to turn Ghanaians against their leaders. The earlier we wake up and notice it and shut him down, the better. And our media is doing a good job by helping him project what he's saying by rebroadcasting it over and over again with no counter views. And our media should be ashamed of themselves too. This is the tweet, how he put it. Ghana's Vice President Bawumia says he is into politics to help people solve problems. Can you see where he's going? Spoiler alert. Bawumia is the one creating the problem. How is Professor Hankes so certain? He doesn't live in Ghana. Today, I measure Ghana's inflation at a stunning 81%, nearly 2.5 times the official rate. He tweeted this on the 20th. Almost every week or every day, this man is tweeting something about Ghana's economy. What is America's economy? Professor Hankes, leave Ghana alone. Ghanaians ought to wake up. The media should stop giving him the voice. But if they choose to talk about it, they should give a counter view, because he has no right to think or to say he has identified. Just like it was. They discovered Ghana. Even though Ghana has been existing before they arrived, they discovered Ghana. Professor Hankes is in America and he can identify Dr. Bawumia as the problem. And we don't think that this man is on the course. But who of us assignment to destabilize Ghana? Here he comes again. Data banks seeded stabilization projection, wishful thinking. Professor Hankes. Every attempt of Ghana he doesn't accept. His is we should install currency board, something that ties Ghana's currency to America. But it is said the currency board was a mechanism during the colonial days. Ghana is not a colonial nation anymore. We choose to run a central bank, just as America is doing. What's the problem with you, Professor Hankes? What is it? His tweet. Databank research says the Ghana Cedi will stabilize in few weeks. That's just wishful thinking. Since January 1st, 2020, the Cedi has depreciated over 41% against the US dollar. Remember, my 95% rule. 95% of what you read in the press is wrong or irrelevant. Tell that to America, not Ghana. And he tweeted that on the 16th of September, 2022. Almost every week, almost every day, he's on, banging on about Ghana. Not good. He didn't stop there. He went on. Economic downturn. Akoufo-Addo must be on another planet. Professor Hankes jabs. What did he say? This is his tweet. Leading member of the New Patriotic Party, Akoufo-Addo, says President Akoufo-Addo deserves praise for his handling of the economy. Spoiler alert. Akoufo-Addo must be on another planet. That is Professor Hankes' tweet. He is picking our leaders piece by piece and labeling them. And you don't think that that is a destabilizing behavior? If that resonates with Ghanaians and they turn against their leadership, he has succeeded. And I think that's what he's doing, because that's not how to give economic advice. Even though our media is trying to project him as applied economics professor of Johns Hopkins, how beneficial is that to us? Whoever assigned him the contract, he should go back to them that he can't deliver because Ghanaians are awake. At least one is, I am. And I have seen one also. What is his name? What's his name? Sorry. Let me guess his name again. Ernest Owusu-Bempah. I don't see Professor Hankes' input as an advice. It's a destructive behavior. And we should ignore it at all costs. And economists in Ghana should also rise up to the occasion and begin to propose. Of course, not all the advices are going to be taken by the government, but let's see you to be making some input and call this man out, just like Owusu-Bempah have done. He can't sit in America and present himself to know everything about Ghana. That's uncalled for. Then, okay, I'll pick one more headline and we should be wrapping up. Currency board no solution to Ghana's currency and inflation problems. This one is coming from Akoufo-Addo to Steve Hanke. Yes, a good call, but an aspect of Mr. Akoufo-Addo's input is questionable to me. Yes, it's okay to call the man out, but to say the only reason you think that the currency board is not viable or is not the way to help Ghana's depreciation, currency depreciation and inflation, it's not quite there. What did he say? Oliver Mausi Akoufo-Addo, one of the conveyors of the Fix the Country movement, has chastised Professor Hanke, a professor of applied economics at Johns Hopkins University, for claiming that the only option to fix Ghana's economic mess is for the central bank to install a currency board. He then called him, Professor Hanke is silly. He said he's a silly man. That's what he said. And he said what? He said, that's his view, is of the view that the currency board is not a solution to Ghana's currency and inflation problems. He is of the view that Professor Hanke does not know the people who will be put on the currency board that he is proposing. He therefore advised the professor not to come and create more jobs for hungry men. Akoufo-Addo. No, I don't think that is the problem. We can't be skeptical about all our leaders. The issue is the currency board, it is not the way. All I read on the IMF, that has the tendency to even set a hyperinflation. It has been applied on small countries. Ghana is bigger than some of those countries. Right? And then there's not going to be any wiggle room for the Ghana currency because it's pegged at a certain agreed rate to the American dollar that will make this, it's just like we are mimicking the economy to look good even though it doesn't look good. Because those countries that have been on the currency board all these years, have they become the greatest of countries? So if your only reason that you think currency board is not right for Ghana is because you think hungry men will be assigned to manage affairs of country, I don't think so. Secondly, the currency board is said to be a colonial days mechanism to guarantee the issue of appropriate denominations and possibly to generate revenue for the colony. And Ghana is not a colonial. The fundamental one for me is Ghana is not a colonial nation to America, and therefore there's no need for us to install any currency board to peg our currency to American dollar. The long and short is this. Professor Hankes, your advice is not welcome, especially the way you are going about it. Stop calling our leaders. We Ghanaians, we are intelligent enough if our leaders are doing well or not. And we will call them out as we see fit. Not you sitting in America throwing stones at our leaders, an attempt to stir Ghanaians against their leadership, our leadership. And that is unacceptable and it is not welcome. Your attempt to destabilize our democracy is wicked and vicious. And you should be ashamed. That's all we have for you, Ghana. Till we come your way, God bless Mother Ghana. Long live the Fourth Republic. Remember to share the video with other Ghana-loving Ghanaians. Subscribe to the channel. Let's collectively, together, in the spirit of Ghana must work, make Ghana to work. See you in our next video. Bye for now.